So your plans for Japan got delayed. I've been talking to a few people actually just as I made the video prior to this one. A lot of people were saying it was good, it was useful, a nice reflection for them, and a lot of people then messaged me afterwards, and by a lot, I mean like 6 people or something. But they messaged me to say that things have been so delayed, that's really disheartening for me. Can you give me any sort of advice on how I could still get to Japan when in the foreseeable future, I don't know exactly when the ice will thaw and that can become a reality for me? What sort of advice could you offer me given that situation that the world is in right now? And usually what people I think are hoping to come from this is the sort of advice that would get them here sooner, as though I had some kind of power over the Japanese government and the policies they have regarding the entrance of foreigners. Maybe that's a little generous, but that's what it seems like when people ask me that question. But I don't want to throw aside anybody's question as just stupid. It comes from a good place. They want to get here. They want to further their life. And so I have a few reflections for you on that. It's going to relate to a post I just made today, which made me think I'd have something useful to share. So first off, I should give the context of my experience coming over to Japan was that maybe like yourself, I was delayed. Probably not as long as you have been if that's something that concerns you right now, but I did get delayed, and mine was probably the oldest story in the book. I was delayed for financial reasons. I thought I'd saved up enough, but then I wasn't totally comfortable with the amount that I'd saved. They suggest I think it's something like $5,000 with any of these entry-level educational companies you could come over with, and I hadn't quite gotten that, so I thought, maybe I could wait a little bit longer on this. So I waited a year before I came over. But then now people are facing delays that have been maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years even, and with no end in sight to how long they may continue to wait. And what I wanted to appeal to then was this idea of how actually having a goal is and aiming towards it, and that you do things for that to achieve it, is more important than actually ultimately achieving that thing. And why do I say this? Well, it's because it has been my experience, and especially my experience since I've come here to Kyoto, that the greatest things in my life have not usually been, and this is recently, although I think if I reflected back, maybe I would have noticed this more if I was more aware of it at the time, that I aim at something and I proceed towards it, but then it's actually the things that unexpectedly occur that I had no idea would ever be a part of that experience as I move towards it, which then are worth more of my attention and in some cases offer me a totally new direction. And a lot of what I'm going to say could be summed up in that now. So proceed towards something, I'll save you some time, proceed towards something, and that's kind of the point. And then you'll arrive at these unexpected opportunities as a result of that. But now, if you're like, okay, that's all I wanted, useful information from YouTube, done. I'll continue with some more examples of this to maybe give it a little bit more weight. The post that I was writing for my Insta for tomorrow was basically that I went to this beautiful place recently. It's called Hozukyo, and it's near Arashiyama. And these are like beautiful places in Kyoto. And I was invited out for a hike. And when I went on this hike, it was great. It was beautiful, somewhat of what I expected. It's going to be these incredible fall colors. They really are astounding in Kyoto. I've never seen anything like it before. But what became the most awesome part of the trip for me was that at one point, as we were making our way along this hike, we came across this river, and on that river was this elderly gentleman who was fishing there. And I swear to you, and you can see if you check out the post, because I would have linked to my Instagram here, that it is easily one of the most beautiful pictures I've ever taken, and nothing that you could have ever planned for. It might have been suggested by our host that, hey, people might like to fish on this river. You might see people, but then again, what are the chances that you're going to find that? You don't know. But more important to me coming across this experience, to coming across what I think is maybe one of the top 3 best photos I've ever taken in my life, was that I actually went out and did something. And how many other people's stories could relate to this? It's probably that somebody went to a party, they really didn't want to go to a party, but then they ended up running into their wife or partner or whatever there. And it was that inadvertent thing that became the more meaningful of the experience for them. And I think that this is a good way to approach coming to Japan. So if you can't come, and in the foreseeable future you don't know that that'll ever change, it doesn't mean that you couldn't still do things while you are not yet here to advance that goal that would still give you an aim. So for example, I think a great thing, which is just old wisdom that you could do before you came here, is to study the language more. And I think in so doing, maybe you come across an opportunity that you didn't expect. I don't know if it's a relationship. Maybe it's another job opportunity. Maybe you go to this thing, you're studying Japanese, but then another student in the class has a business and they're short-staffed right now, and they actually have a really, really interesting job as it relates to Japan, and you would be able to do something there. If you couldn't study the language, think about other things that you could do. Okay, well, I was discussing in my previous video having a longer term plan once you're here. If you're going to come to Japan, don't just think of the first job that you have. In fact, think very little of the first job that you're going to have, because that's all it is. A stepping stone onto whatever else you might do afterwards, but people become fixated on that one thing, when in reality, first stepping stone, and there's all these other things that you could do which are more important following that year or two that you spend in that first position. So what you could focus on while you're not yet here, maybe it's before you even arrive, you're like, oh, I got actually a couple more years before I could go there. Well, then I offered this suggestion in the previous video that you could work on getting your master's, and you could do that once you were in Japan to give yourself a next step. Well, why don't you do that before you come to Japan? And it means that when you arrive, you are preset for a better end result to what it is that you're seeking out. And all of these remain true. It doesn't have to be through education with a master's. It doesn't have to be a digital nomad life, although you could be preparing by educating yourself to use the tools of the trade, like the cameras and the mics and all that. It could be as well IT. You don't wait to learn to develop software when you're here in Japan. You do it before you arrive in the country, and you do it as a part of some maybe boot camp that you can do in your home country. And then maybe this is the last thing that people want to hear, but it's also, I think, the most comforting in that all paths are the right path so long as you take action, in that all these things I'm saying, which could prepare you for a better end result when you were here in Japan, or a better result as you continue through the process of living here, they could also lead you onto something that maybe is totally unrelated to Japan, and that's okay, because we derive meaning and excitement in our lives from having a purpose. I don't think it has to be one specific purpose. It's more that capital P purpose that we need. And so perhaps in studying a boot camp, you get an idea, software boot camp, you get an idea for your own application that you want to develop. Perhaps through your master's studies, you realize, actually, this fringe field is something that I'm so interested in, and they actually study that more now in Germany than they do in Japan. So I might go there. But that our direction in life is usually you aim, you fly towards it as you loose the bow, and then halfway along you're like, that looks really shiny, and then you go off in that direction and you find something equally fulfilling. But you do need goals, and I think living abroad, I think living in Japan is an awesome goal. I wouldn't have lived here for as long as I have if I didn't feel that way. But there are these themes that echo throughout the videos that I've made, and I've kind of tried to sneak them in the whole time over all the years that I've made, is that much of what I have to say about having a successful, fulfilling, enjoyable experience of when you come to Japan is something that could be equally applied to anywhere in the world. It could be Germany. I keep saying Germany because I often thought maybe I might have gone there instead. I have an affinity for the German people. Whether it be Germany, whether it be Italy, whether it be Spain, whether it be Korea or China or something like that, I don't know. But that we aim towards something. I cannot believe how much it seems self-evident, but I don't think a lot of people appreciate, and it always is worth reminding ourselves of that. I may not know what's going to happen, but what I do know is that nothing happens unless you take action. And so, with that in mind, take some action with the circumstances that you currently have. Take them with the heartfelt intention of that they would eventually bring you to Japan. And as I say, this can be leveraged into a better experience once you're here. But take even greater solace in the fact that even if it doesn't lead to Japan, because you've given yourself a goal, because you've given yourself to something to develop in, to evolve in, usually, and I think like frighteningly so, like so many times that I see it now, that you'll inevitably get something out of it, but that's because you took action, that is because you aimed at something, that is because you followed something somewhere along a line to its completion with as much effort and interest as you could muster. Thanks very much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys. I put my website down at the bottom as well, so if you want to check out my website, that's always awesome. I appreciate that because I got my blog posts up there. In short order, I'm going to speak with Caden about, Caden being the awesome graphic designer I work with, about perhaps doing some new designs for the store, really rebooting that, actually having, finalized merchandise. And I have all my blog posts there for the projects that I'm doing here on the channel, but also as it relates to Garden Lab. And also, if you choose to support me on Patreon, I really, really appreciate that. In fact, as of wrapping this video, I'm going to go and do some phone backgrounds, which I've been dragging my feet on, and upload to my supporters there. Thank you again for watching. I really appreciate you. Hope you're having a great new year. Hug the ones you love, and take care until the next one. Peace.